Hello everyone, welcome to the monthly NRHS Iowa Chapter YouTube slideshow. If you're interested in more information about the Iowa Chapter, please visit iowanrhs.com. There you can join the chapter or renew your membership and order any of the great products that the Iowa Chapter has to offer, including DVDs and photo collections. Please enjoy the program this month and consider visiting iowanrhs.com. Hello everyone, welcome to our June 2022 program with Michael Bartels. Michael, in pre-recording this program, gave us about 80 minutes worth of material, so it's being broken up into two presentations. It'll be approximately 40 minutes long. This is part one. And if you're watching it live, make sure and tune in again next Sunday for part 2. Both are going to be at 3 p.m. Central Time. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the program. Hello everyone. This is the June 2022 Iowa Chapter NRHS and Cedar Rapids Railfan slideshow. This month I have Michael Bartels with me. He's going to be giving us a presentation of some fairly modern rail fanning around eastern Iowa and surrounding areas. Before I hand it off to Michael, I just want to point out that we are going to be having a 24-hour rail fan event in East Dubuque on June 24th and 25th. You can look that up through Steel Highway on Facebook if you want to sign up for a shift for that. We'd love to have everybody out. And aside from that, we're going to hand it right off to Mr. Bartels so he can tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll dive right into the slides. So go ahead, Mike.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you're having a good day today. A little bit about myself. I've been born and raised here in Cedar Rapids. I grew up around trains and all that. I just recently, I'd say in the last 3 or 4 years, got into photography of trains. And this slideshow is pretty much going to depict all that, not necessarily from the beginning, but from, I'd say, 2017 to present day. We're going to be taking a look at all the Class 1s and a couple of regionals and short lines that run around Iowa and surrounding areas. So without further ado, the first picture here is of a westbound detoured oil train on the Union Pacific Clinton sub right here in Cedar Rapids. Here you can see them crossing the Cedar River with their lovely Union Pacific leader that they have to have.
The brick. Just call it what it is. It's the brick.
Yeah. I mean, as of we're recording this, tomorrow the cab signals won't be required anymore. So shots like this, you might start seeing actual CN leaders and all that stuff, but I'm not going to get into that. This is actually a detoured oil train. This usually gets handed off to the UP, I believe, in Wisconsin, and it runs down the Cotton Belt through Illinois and all that down to Louisiana. But in this day, they were detouring through Iowa on the ex-Chicago Northwestern main line across the Cedar River here. Next one, we have a Eastbound Z Train. I believe this was a Brooklyn to Global 1 Z Train with an arrow wedge there on the head end. I kind of wish the railroad still used those, but with PSR and all that, they just can't be fun anymore. Our leader is a notch-nosed, flared radiated ST70M with a low nose logo, which is personally one of my favorite on the UP there. This was taken at Otis, Iowa, which is actually just east of the last shot, which is on the bridge back there that you can see in the background.
Yeah, you were standing on the bridge for the last shot. Now you're on the ground looking up at it.
Yep. Okay, we're back at C Street again. This is on the ground at the Tate Cummings ballpark. We're in the little grassy area between the parking lot and the tracks. This is a eastbound North Platte to Proviso manifest with a trio of 70Ms. It's kind of hard to find 70Ms leading to begin with, let alone a trio of them. So this was a rather nice treat there.
I'm guessing that at least one of those three might have found its way up into Wisconsin by now for the Watco operation, since they've been buying them.
I would assume so by now. I know UP's starting to reactivate 70Ms again, but I know they're trying to sell them off as quickly as they can too.
Yeah. Got some reefers there on the head end as well.
Yeah, I'm assuming this was probably a block from. I'm assuming that was probably a block from Idaho or something, since they don't do the Produce Express anymore. Be my assumption.
Right.
We're back again at Otis. We're kind of going back and forth here with another 70M leader. This time, this was a Salt Lake City to Global 2Z with another 70M leader, and you can see the conductors being a little extra friendly. It's kind of hard to find nowadays on the UP as well.
Definitely got his attention that day.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, we are in Chelsea, Iowa now. Big change here. We're in Chelsea along the Clinton sub still for a Westbound manifest with a repainted AC 6000 leader. Those are pretty hard to find nowadays as well. This was taken, I believe, in 2018. This was right after the QJ had just ran its Brooklyn excursions. We went up to the UP and got this leader, so that was kind of a nice treat.
Sure. Who are your buddies out here with you?
I believe one of them is Jordan from Minnesota, and I think the other one's Sam Bolte. I think, I'm not entirely sure. It kind of looks like him. I don't know though. Can't tell. They were all up there, and I went back for the actual crossing shot.
Right.
So here we're along Highway 30, I believe, near Loudon for the last patched C&W AC-44, which was renumbered to 6706. Trailing fourth out on a Westbound Z Train. This was in the beginning of 2020. You can see its Operation Lifesaver logo is a bit faded, but its original number 8804 is still along the side. I believe 6706 is stored right now because its engine blew up, so that's kind of unfortunate. So we have no active patch C&Ws roaming around.
Nope, just the Heritage unit.
Yeah. We're now in Clinton, Iowa. We're here just east of the swing bridge that the UP uses to cross the Mississippi. This is a westbound Autorack train. I believe it was Gibson, Indiana to North Platte Autoracks with 2 NS motors trailing behind the Thundercab Ace, leading the point there. Be kind of interesting to see what UP does with this bridge, since there are rumors that they are going to be replacing this bridge at some point, but those have been going on since like 2008, so who knows.
Well, they're not rumors anymore. The UP is actually doing grading work on the Illinois side now for the approach.
Really? Oh, I guess I didn't pay attention the last time I was out there, huh?
Yeah, the new right-of-way is going to be south of the existing right-of-way, but it's definitely happening.
Alrighty then. Same spot. I believe this was Easter of the last year, I believe, of 2021. This is a westbound Brooklyn Z train crossing the Mississippi again at the exact same location we were at for the first shot. We're back at Otis again with another eastbound Z train, I believe, with the UP 2010 unit, the Boy Scouts unit. This unit's recently been repainted into flagless scheme and no longer has any of the Boy Scout logos on it at all, which is rather unfortunate, but I ended up catching it, and I believe this was 2020 as well. The unit wasn't looking so hot, but you take what you can get.
Yeah, the UP is just no fun anymore.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're in Grinnell, Iowa now on the Union Pacific Oskaloosa sub for the running of their local that runs down to Eddyville, the cargo plant in Eddyville, local number LMN34. And they're seen here passing the distance signal to the Iowa Interstate Diamond, which is still a semaphore. I don't know if it's MSTL heritage or not, but it's an active semaphore, so you can't really complain about shooting it.
Yeah, that's a home-cooked deal that somebody in the signal department just kind of patchworked together, but it is a semaphore blade, and it's probably a semaphore lamp next to it.
Yeah, somebody at the Marshalltown signal department probably got a little fancy there.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're moving on to the Big Boy event of, I believe this was 2019 when Big Boy came through. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It seems like a long time ago. They pulled into the west end of Beverly Yard and stopped just short of the office there. And this technically wasn't a public event, but the public just kind of swarmed the yard, and they weren't really going to say no. So everybody was down there taking shots. So me and a couple buddies stayed pretty late. I think this was taken at like 10:45 at night. As you can see, there's a freight train rolling by in the background there.
Yeah. You must have been just about standing right next to Ben Root for this shot.
I believe I was, yes.
Yes.
All right. This is continuing on with the big boy event. This was after they arrived at Boone. They took the dome cars off the train, and this is them heading back west. This is just west of the Kate Shelley High Bridge. As you can see there, solo ST-70M heading back west with the dome cars back to Council Bluffs. And the big boy would continue east. Actually, no, I believe they went north. My bad. But
you're on the wooden bridge there, just west of the Kate Shelley Bridge.
Yep. Moving on to Omaha, Nebraska, we are at the College World Series display event with the George Bush SD-70 Ace, number 4141, and the infamous 1111 powered by our furloughs, as the railroaders like to call it. Both were on display for College World Series back in, I believe this was 2019 as well. I was out visiting a friend in Lincoln, and I decided that I'd stop here and shoot this real quick. It's always a treat to see 4141 since it's now in Texas for good.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year, in the winter, 4141 made a special appearance in Council Bluffs. I think this was after George Bush had died, and they had already done the excursion down to his resting place, and they did a little tour with 4141 before they sent it back to Little Rock, where they took the motor out of it and all that. So this is a bit of an interesting photo. This was in 2019 as well. I was sitting at C Street one night, and I heard over the radio that the UP had hit a semi in Belle Plaine, so I was like, might as well go out there and see what I can see. I got lucky. As soon as I got there, it was already dark, but as soon as I got there, UP was just bringing in the West Side Transport floodlights to help with the cleanup efforts. So I got a pretty decent photo of the carnage, as you can see here.
Do you know if the driver made it out all right?
He did. I believe he had mechanical problems, so he was out long before the train got there. But yeah, they weren't able to get him off or get the train stopped in time before they hit him. So now we're moving on to, I believe this was 2020. This is a Bnsf coal train. This is a Muscatine-bound coal train on the Union Pacific. Now, you might be wondering, why is there not a UP leader? Well, during this time, there was massive flooding going on in the Missouri River out in western Iowa, so Bnsf asked the FRA for a waiver. UP asked the FRA for a waiver to run BNSF's Ottumwa sub coal trains across the UP without cab signal leaders. So we were treated to about 2 weeks or so of detours with BNSF coal trains and all that.
You're at Clarence here.
Yep, this was shot just east of Clarence. As you can see, the famous Purina plant back there that a lot of photographers like to frame their shots with. This train, this is at Bertram, just west of the bridge. This was an actual Union Pacific train. This was an empty ethanol train going back to western Iowa with the CSX leader. Now, this was not supposed to happen. The FRA only gave a waiver exception for BNSF trains to run on UP. UP was not allowed to run their own trains with non-UP leaders. But it did happen. It happened twice. This train, which ended up stopping at Beverly because somebody forgot to tell the dispatcher that the lead locomotive needed fuel, so they had to stop at Beverly and turn the third motor on and isolate the first one. It was this train, and I believe another ethanol train with an NS leader came through in the middle of the night. Those are the only two UP operated trains without cab signals, besides the BNSF ones.
Right. We got the waiver. May as well use it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got fined for it, but they were like, we might as well try it.
Right.
So this was in the beginning of January 2020. This is Iowa Northern 77. It's an ex-C&W Alco of some kind. It was bought from the Boone and Scenic Valley, and they redid it all. And repainted it, rebuilt it all, and delivered it to the Iowa Northern via the Union Pacific. Here they're shoving it into North Yard after making the trip from Beverly Yard. We're here in downtown next to Quaker Oats along the UP and CN yards there. We're back in clearance again. For this was in 2021, I believe, of a westbound vehicle train that came out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And it was heading somewhere out west, I think Colorado or somewhere. So it was all Humvees. It was like 40 cars worth of Humvees there. It's the same train, just as somewhere near Montour, I believe. Same train. We chased it all the way from Clinton, I think, to west of Marshalltown, I think, somewhere out there. So now we're going to move on to the Iowa Interstate Railroad. See here we have one of two mother slug sets that the railroad has. Seen here doing some switching here at Council Bluffs as they're passing the Rails West Museum here. I believe both mother slug sets right now are stored at Silvis, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, so now we're in Kelowna, Illinois, on the Iowa Interstate, where they crossed the Burlington Northern Santa Fe's Barstow sub. We're here with the afternoon CDBI with the anniversary duo, 513 and 516 leading the charge. And fourth out there you can see is the New York Central Heritage Unit. That came in on a NS ethanol train for Anawan, I believe. Power was cut at Silvis and returned back east the same day on the CBBI behind the 513 and 16. So kind of a nice last ship. You don't get to see 3 heritage units on the interstate that often, so that was a rather nice catch there.
Definitely.
We're here at Walford on the Iowa Interstate Cedar Rapids sub, or technically the Kranick-Amana line. This was a CRSA in 2019 with a Norfolk Southern GEVO leader leading the charge there southbound back to South Amana. 2021, I believe. This is the Oxford excursions with the Iowa Interstate 6988. This was them coming back west to Oxford with the 707 leading. This is in Tiffin by the soccer complex there. Back in East Moline for this shot of the NS 8025, the Monongahela Heritage Unit running a PEDM empty grain train for Des Moines. It's kind of sad to see these trains not really running on the Iowa Interstate anymore, as I believe traffic is now going via the Bnsf now. So it's always nice when they ran a heritage unit on it, but yeah, these trains I don't believe are anymore on the Iowa Interstate.
Iowa Interstate will probably try to underbid him again.
I would imagine
it seems to go back and forth.
Yeah, because I believe they ran a couple last year, but most of the grain traffic for the Des Moines plant is going via the BN now, which is rather sad, but it is what it is. It's railroad. All right, we are just west of West Liberty, Iowa at the Highway 6 crossing for this afternoon run of the BICB. This was when the 1500 SISW crew would take it to North Star and flip back on SASI. This was the 515 and the 509 with the correct stuff on the head end. I know there's a lot of local rail fans here that complain when the pigs aren't on the head end of the BICB and the CBBIs, but here they are. And yeah, this was just west of West Liberty at Highway 6.
Yes.
We're back in Rock Island at the famous Rock Island sign for the Rock Island Yard with the Heritage Duo once again with the 516 landing this time. This was the 1500 BICB again, running with the SISW crew. This is them getting ready to pass through Rock Island Yard. I kind of wish the railroad would redo the sign, but I don't think that's on their priority list, I'd imagine.
I doubt it.
This was 4th of July last year. This was a hot ex-CRSI ethanol train for the Norfolk Southern. Normally, this would not have ran on the 4th of July, but this was a hot load that needed to get to Chicago immediately. So the crew took it straight from Cedar Rapids to Silvis, and then I believe they hooked it onto CBBI and ran it into Chicago that night. This was at the Cedar River Bridge just east of Moscow. Here's the same train passing East Moline, passing the John Deere Pavilion and the Texlayer Center, running through downtown Moline, Illinois. Here's another 1500 SISW crew bringing another BICV west. This is at the same Highway 6 crossing we shot earlier, or that was mentioned earlier. This was the 502 leading this time without the pigs running on the head end, so it was quite a shame. But yeah, this is at the same crossing. They're just west of West Liberty. Here's the same BICB again, crossing the Iowa River here in Iowa City. The weather decided to cooperate well here for a nice shot of the north side of the bridge. I really wish they would run the BICB in the afternoon again, because it was always a great chase from Silvis to South Amano, but...
Yes.
What can you do?
Write a letter and complain, I suppose.
I got some contacts, so I'm sure I could.
Yes.
So here we're here at the Crandick Wilson Avenue yard. We're standing on Wilson Avenue, and this was a Crandick job that was heading for the O yards, or the O something or another. This is in their new Trevero paint scheme. They've been slowly but surely sending one unit at a time down to Mid-American Car there in Kansas City to get the new paint scheme, which, in my opinion, doesn't look too terribly bad. It's just a bit different from their Union Pacific colors that they usually run. Here we're at Fairfax for a running of the CRSA. This was in November of 2021. The 506 and another 500 behind her. And this wasn't the interesting part. It was this part on the next slide. They had 4 distributed power units on the rear of this train. Why? I don't know. But the only one that was actually online was the Jevo. The 3 Jeeps were all offline. So I don't know what the Interstate was doing that day, but yeah, they ran it 2x4 back down to South Amana. So
I mean, that's got to be some kind of a ferry move, you would think. But
I would assume, from what I was told, this was the power off of BICB the night before, and they just ran everything up. They didn't feel like swapping power out, so they just ran everything up and then ran everything back. So
gotcha.
This was 2018 runs. This is the 2018 Brooklyn run. They ran, after the runs, they ran to South Amana, unhooked the train from the cars, and then they lined up a Jevo, and the 6988 here for a company photo of the 3 different generations of locomotives that the company owns.
Yeah.
So that was pretty neat. Okay, moving right along, we are on the Wisconsin Southern now. First photo is of the T004, which runs from Horicon to Chicago's Belt Clearing Railroad. This is shot near Iron Ridge, Wisconsin, with a lovely WSOR SD40 leading the charge. This was a 4-pack of them this day, and me and a buddy of mine, we chased it quite a ways. The next shot is here at Hartford, Wisconsin, which is also the home of Sioux Line 1003, which was the real reason why we were out there. You see him passing a little lake here just behind some apartment complexes here in Hartford. And then here we are seeing them on the CN. I don't know what the subdivision's called, but it's on the CN now at Slinger, Wisconsin, and they're making the run south to Chicago here, passing a nice little curve there.
I believe, isn't that the Waukesha sub?
I believe so. That sounds right. I believe it's the Waukesha.
Yeah.
So since we were out for 1003, I figured I'd share some 1003 photos. Of course, I can never catch this engine running engine first, whatever they call it. So this is them making their ferry move to Hartford. Not Hartford, Horicon. This was them making their run to Horicon because the next day they'd be doing a charter excursion for Trains magazine. So this was them departing Hartford. And then this was from the previous year, actually, because they're going the different way. This was the Santa train. This was them coming into town. So I actually did shoot them going the right way, so I kind of forgot about that. But,
yeah,
this is them at the same lake that we caught the T4 at, and they're in Hartford.
You got a little bit of reflection in the lake there. Not a lot.
Yeah, I wish the tracks were a bit closer because you could have got a better reflection, but so be it.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to the Canadian Pacific. This was in 2018, I believe. This is when CP was rebuilding all their 90 Max into what they are now, which is the ST70 ACUs.
Mm-hmm.
This one was probably my favorite one to come into Dubuque because the CP would transfer them off to the CN in Dubuque, and then the CN would take them to Mayfield. This one is the CP 9159. It is the Pulling for United Way 90 Mac. And this was probably my favorite 90 Max that the CP had. I mean, it was kind of nice just to see CP 90 Max in general, but this one holds a little bit of a more special place in my heart just because of the United Way logo.
Yeah.
As you can see, somebody's already taken the one number board off of there. I'm surprised the horn was still on it, but... So here, this is when EJ&E, I believe it was 659, yep, was running on the L586 there, the CN local in Dubuque. Caught them passing the 90 Max there. It's not too often you get to see a EJ&E 38 passing CP 90 Max nowadays, so. This is up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. This is the Sioux Line 4598. It was the last active Candy Apple GP38 that the CP had. As of a week ago, it has been sold, I believe, to a scrapping company. So it's no longer on CP's roster, which is rather a shame. This was G45, the La Crosse switcher, going back to the little area they have just east of the Amtrak station there, or west of the Amtrak station there in La Crosse.
The yard that they have there, yep.
Yeah. So here we are, back in Dubuque again. This was the first delivery of 70 ACUs to the CP from the CN. As you can see, it's CP 7000 there. It's the first ACU ever built. As you can see, the CN switcher there is doing some work there at the Dubuque yard. This was in 2020, I believe. It is the CP's Royal Canadian Pacific Officer Car Special running. I believe they went to Kansas City. The third F unit took a crap somewhere in Minnesota, so they added this Heritage Unit ACU. This was the first Heritage ACU to run a train, and it just so happened to have been on the OCS train. So it was rather nice treat. I would have rather have seen the F units leading, but I'll take a first run of a Heritage ACU instead. Yeah. So this was, let me check my notes. This was near Reno, Minnesota on the Marquette sub.
What do you suppose are the chances that they were down there negotiating the New World Order down in Kansas City?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised one iota, because I know they're coming down, as of this recording, they're coming down later this week. They're going down to Kansas City and going onto the KCS system, apparently. So
yeah, I think they're running the whole system.
I believe so, yeah.
This time.
So now we're in Dubuque at the world-famous Dubuque Junction now. This is a empty 3 GPS ballast train heading back to Waterloo, Wisconsin with a duo of CP SD40s. This one is a dual flag SD40. Of note, it does have a K5HL for all you horn foamers out there. Not have a K3, so I was a little bit disappointed there. But so be it. It was a duo of SD40s. I never had shot a duo of CP SD40s before, so this was a nice treat to catch that day. Next, we're just north of Dubuque Junction, but south of the yard for a loaded empty sand train with 2 KCS Aces leading the charge. The sites like this will probably be becoming even more common since we're pretty certain the merger is going to be happening here. So,
yeah.
So now we're in Marquette. This was in 2017. We're in Marquette. We're coming in. Me and a couple friends are coming into Marquette. And as usual, we checked the yard out to see what's going on. And we went by the yard office, and we had a heart attack when we saw Sue 6053, the last Candy Apple Red SD60 paired up with DME 4005. So we stopped and took some photos. They were doing a crew change here. I believe this was the Marquette yard switching power that they were using at the time. So that was a very nice treat.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I lost the videos for this because my hard drive took a crap one day. So I at least have a photo, but there's no video of it, unfortunately. So now this was 2021. We're at Harpers Ferry as shown by the sign. This is what was 474. They had just stopped to throw the switch back for the main here, and you can see the conductors climbing aboard the locomotive there. And we've got one of the military ACUs trailing second out, and an SD40 that was online fourth out as well. So as we continue to kind of sporadically jump all over the place, we're here just south of Ottumwa on the CP. What is it? I'm drawing a blank. What is it called? South of Ottumwa.
South of what? The first town south of Ottumwa?
No, the subdivision. I don't remember what.
It's the Laredo sub.
Yeah, we're on the Laredo sub. This is the only time I've ever shot the Laredo sub. We're literally just south of Ottumwa. I was coming back. I was going to a train show in some town down there. I can't remember the name of it. Eldon. It was Eldon, Iowa. That's where it was. And 474 was just leaving town, so I figured, why not? And found a nice little curve shot here. So it was a Beaver AC44, an ACU, and an SD30 going back to, I believe, Kansas City. Yeah. So that was a nice little treat there. Now we're back in La Crosse again. We've got a YN2 CSX AC44 with a rebuilt Mack second out on a eastbound loaded oil train. And in the distance there is 471 with the Bnsf H2-9 leading with the D-Day Memorial Unit 6644 second out there. This was Halloween of last year, I do believe. Now we're at, let me check my notes, at Fredonia, CP's 475, crossing the Cedar River here with a nice GP22 Eco there, second out. Now we're on the Eldridge branch for the CP's B73, the Nitron local, running back north to wherever they go. I don't know. I'm not quite familiar with the Nitron branch, but we were out and they were running, so we decided to catch them. This was near Port Byron, here on the Nitron side.
Yeah. I'm surprised he has that coil car with him, unless that's just literally a buffer car.
It might be, because I don't think there's any steel industries on the Nitron side.
No. He could just be a buffer car for all those tanks coming out of 3M, though.
Yeah. Now we're going to move on to the Iowa Northern. There's only 2 shots that I've got, I believe, of Iowa Northern in here. I could be wrong. Towards the end of the show, it gets a little bit discombobulated. But this is the Waterloo to Butler train running northbound near Shell Rock, which is its destination, with one of the GP40s leading the charge there, crossing some rural crossing just south of town. And this here is the O-line job coming into Fairbank with conductor Williams on the point there, as you can see giving us a wave there. They turned and burned there at Fairbank this day as we chased them all the way from Waterloo up to Fairbank. So conductor Williams is no longer with the Iowa Northern. He's with the Iowa Interstate now, and we'll be seeing him later in the program as well. So
nice.
So now we're in Burlington, Iowa, on the Burlington Junction Railway. This was shot literally just east of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe's yard, as their lovely ex-Rock Island Alco is doing some switching there in the yard there. This is one of 3, I believe, the railroad has, and I think this is the only 3 that are left in existence as well.
Yeah, those Alco switchers, center cab switchers, weren't exactly popular at the time, and there weren't many of them made, so...
Yeah, so if you ever want to catch the Burlington Junction, in Burlington. This is their normal power that they use. Recently, they've been using an XUP GP15, but normally they do use this. So this is quite nice to see. I wish it was in its original paint scheme still, but I must admit the Burlington Junction scheme does look pretty nice on it. So now we're going to move on to probably the longest part of the program. This is the Bnsf portion of the show. We're here in East Dubuque, just east of where the rail cams actually are. This is a
west of the rail cams.
Oh yeah, west of the rail cams. My bad.
You're between you're between the webcam and the signal bridge.
Yep. This is a bare table reposition move from Portland to Chicago, with an H2 GEVO leading with the 75M trailing there second out. I believe this was just a reposition move of trailers and containers back to Cicero. We're actually back on the Canadian Pacific technically, but this is the BN Clinton local coming south, just south of LeClaire. This was when they had a Dash 8, number 525 leading the way. Now this job is ran by a bunch of leasing units, so it's rather a shame. But yeah, this was them coming south one afternoon in some pretty decent lighting there just south of LeClaire. Now we're in Fort Madison, at the Fort Madison Yard. We're at the west end of the yard along the old bridge there. We have a S train entering the yard here to do some switching. And in the background there, you can see an H2-9 there hooked up to one of the old BN fuel tank cars. I don't know why it was sitting in Fort Madison. That thing had been there for like 5 or 6 years. And then all of a sudden, like last year, they got rid of it. So I don't know what its purpose was. I don't know if they just kind of forgot about it or what. But yeah, it had been sitting there for quite some time.
Yeah.
So now we're at arguably my favorite place to rail fan in Mount Pleasant. We're here at the Amtrak station in Mount Pleasant for an eastbound coal load with a wagon-wheeled executive Mack leader. This was to be handed off to the NS in Chicagoland. Of course, you can't go without having a headlight out to ruin the photo, but, you know, I'm not that picky. Speaking of executive Max, about a week later, I was up in La Crosse and got word that this other wagon-wheeled executive Mac was leading a Lubbock, Texas-bound sand train. So we got this. This is just south of La Crosse, Wisconsin on the Aurora sub. Now we're on the Chillicothe sub near Galesburg, Illinois. This is the Bnsf 7360 East on the red-hot LAC WSP 9, which is hot UPS traffic from Corwith to Willow Springs. So you got 5 GEVOs on the point, and they're all elephant style. I must admit, that is probably the hottest Z train I've ever seen, both literally and figuratively. Seeing yes. A Z train with 5 GEVOs all elephant style just warms my heart for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I don't know what happened to this photo, but this photo looks a lot better not in person, but on Flickr. But this is the first ever DSLR photo I ever took. It's of a eastbound oil train at Lynxville. I was fiddling around with DSLR and we had this coming and it was really good light. So the photo actually turned out really well. It's just very compressed on the slideshow for some reason, but so be it. That was, Lynxville, if I didn't mention that, Lynxville. Now we're back on technically on the Marceline sub. This is of a DP passing under the now gone searchlights just west of Fort Madison. These stood up until about 2020, where you can see the replacements are already up. It's a rather shame that these got taken down. These were the sole survivors along with the ones in New Boston up until 2020, and now they're all gone. So at least got one shot of one of them, so that's what I was going for that day. Of course, you know, when you're on the Transcon, you can usually see a lot of trains, but this day there was flooding in Illinois, so this is like one of like 3 trains we saw all day. So So now we're back on the Barstow sub in Illinois. We're in Kelowna. I waited 4 hours at this location for this train. This was LCHI 104, the Galesburg to Barstow flip with a BN SD60M leader passing the station sign here at Kelowna. Can't see it because it hides it, but there was about 10 motors on this train. They took all the power from Barstow and brought it all back to Galesburg with them this day. So that was quite nice. I waited 4 hours for this train at this location and missed out on CP 475 derailing in LeClaire that day. This was that same day.
Huh, yeah.
So rather lucky, I guess. Speaking of BN60Ms, back when the BNSF ran the Weaver local up to, this was from Galesburg to Weaver, Iowa, they used to run local power on it. And this day, they were parked just south of the crossing that goes to the chemical plant. BN60M, number 1457, was sitting idle here and the rip track there that they had there. They no longer sit power here. They run GEVOs on this local now as well because the Galesburg pool doesn't have a lot of local power to share. And like a week later, this locomotive was stored. So kind of glad I shot it when I did. We also got yelled at by the security guard about 15 seconds later that we were on their property, but you know, so be it.
Barely escaped with your life, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
So now we're back in East Dubuque. We're on the opposite side of the tracks from that bare table train. This is a VPN LPC rack stack mix with my very first ST75M leader. I was chasing M338 this day, and I abandoned ship when I found out this was leaving La Crosse, and I barely made it to East Dubuque in time, but I'm glad I did because this was a pretty good lash up.
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, this is probably a CN grain train. No. This is a BNSF grain train XCXX WOL going out to Wolseley, South Dakota with 2 BC Rail barns leading the charge. Everybody was rather surprised when it led out of Chicago. We all thought it was going to get a GEVO leader in Chicago or something, but nope. BNSF let it run with the 2 barns, and we see it here passing the auto shop where the cams are at. They're in East Dubuque. It's kind of a frantic. Everybody got in their cars. We had like an hour to spare to get up to Dubuque in time to catch this train. And the only reason we actually caught it was because they actually stopped at Bud for some unknown reason. I think they did a crew change there. So we got extremely, extremely lucky, and the lighting was really good as well for this. So probably one of my most favorite catches up on the Aurora sub, I must admit.
Yeah.
Since the barns are now gone.
This presentation of the Iowa chapter has been brought to you by Steel Highway. Search for Steel Highway rail cams on YouTube, or go to steel-highway.com and order your copy of the magazine that every rail fan needs. Steel Highway, the magazine for the modern rail fan. This is the conclusion of Part 1 of Michael Bartels' June 2022 Iowa Chapter YouTube program. Please make sure and catch Part 2, and thank you for tuning in.